Good afternoon, everyone. My name is May Sherman. I am a full-time student at Rasmussen University, where I am pursuing a bachelor's degree in early childhood education with a capstone in leadership. I have worked in the early childhood education field since July of 2021. I just accepted a part-time writing job at Physics Today, where my editor has asked me to write a journal on how physics occur in real life. Today, we will learn about the physics concepts that I wrote about in my vlog. Let us begin. On Saturday, August 31st, 2024, my Aunt Rose and I traveled by car to Lake Minnetonka Regional Park in Mistress, Minnesota. We connected my cell phone to my car using a USB-C cable. This allowed the phone to communicate with the computer in our car, which presented a clear view of the map on Google Maps. Google Maps is an app on my cell phone that uses the Global Positioning System, GPS. GPS systems use Max Planck's concept of quantum mechanics. According to Rasmussen University, quantum mechanics involves how electrons and protons form atoms that emit light. Quantum mechanics proved that light can be in waves or particles. According to Emily Dykman, who wrote the article, quantum entanglement offers unprecedented precisions for GPS and more. Updated, every smartphone has a location sensor that receives signals from satellite antenna sensors in space. The satellite antenna sensors send a signal to the smartphone location sensor, which pinpoints the device location. This is done using an electrical current made up of electrons. The satellite antenna sensors transfer photons, which hold information to the location sensor on the smartphone. Since the location sensor in my cell phone receives information from satellites in space, Albert Einstein's theory of special relativity applies. According to Mike Dazes, who wrote the article Theory of Relativity, Albert Einstein believed that electromagnetic waves moved at the same speed as light. He also believed that speed, time, mass, and energy were connected. He thought that if one changed, the others would also change. Einstein developed an equation to describe the relationship between speed, time, mass, and energy. This equation is E equals mc squared. E represents energy, M represents the mass or weight of an object, and C is the speed of light. Mark Dazas said, according to this formula, great speeds can alter other aspects of physics, such as time or mass. The faster an object travels, the slower time passes. According to Rasmussen University, satellites that send GPS signals are moving faster than Earth can rotate. The clocks up in space are slower than the clocks on the Earth because of the speed at which the GPS satellites are traveling. Communication between the phone location sensor and antenna sensor on the GPS satellites allow them to give an estimate arrival time. Our estimate arrival time at Lake Minnetonka Regional Park in Mistress, Minnesota was 10:18 a.m. When we arrived, I saw a neat building called the Legend of Lookout Heights. It was made from wood and bricks. One scientific concept that applies to this building was thermal dynamics. Rasmussen University said, thermodynamics is the study of how particles move at different temperatures and pressures. According to Greenbuilding, who wrote the article, The Importance of Building Science, engineers use the law of thermodynamics when choosing the materials that they are going to use. Builders choose materials that will hold heat. The bricks on the outside of the building absorb and hold heat. According to the company Brick Hunter that wrote the article, are brick houses more energy efficient? In the wintertime, brick houses retain heat for 7 to 8 hours because they do not lose heat as fast as other siding materials. In the summer times, brick houses stay cooler because heat from the sun does not heat the bricks as quickly as thinner materials. According to Harmon, Eddie Pinto, and Emmy Setwato, who wrote the article, The Difference of Thermal Performance Between Houses with Wooden Walls and Exposed Brick Walls in Tropical Coast. In a study done in Indonesia, researchers found that the temperature remained hotter inside houses with brick siding than those without. The average temperature of a brick house was 29 degrees Celsius. The average temperature of a wooden house was 28 degrees Celsius. The next thing we saw at the park was a maple tree with 3 branches. It was on a trail that led down to the lake. Isaac Newton's law of gravity and light applies to trees. According to the ESA, European Space Agency, who wrote the article, Growing in Curves, How Gravity Makes Plants Bend, trees have 2 forces acting on them, light and gravity. These 2 forces determine how a tree grows. On the tree in the photo, 2 out of the 3 branches were bent where they connected to the trunk. According to the ESA, bent tree branches have more axon, a hormone that determines if the branches will grow straight or curved. The more axon the plant or tree has, the curvier it will be. Trees that grow in shadier areas will be more curved because of trying to reach the sunlight. The tree on the trail was in a shaded area, so it most likely has more of the hormone axons since 2 out of the 3 branches were curved. At the lakeside, we saw multiple boats out in the water. Newton's first, second, and third law of motion applies to boats. According to Rasmussen University, the first law Isaac Newton developed was the law of motion, which included Galileo's idea of inertia. The law of motion, an object will not move unless an external force pushes on it. If the object is in motion, it will move in a straight line unless it is acted on by an external force. The first law applied to both because all 3 would have continued in a straight line if not for the water current, the motor, and the person steering the boat. According to Rasmussen University, the second law that Newton developed said the change of motion is proportional to the motive force impressed and is made in the direction of the right line in which that force is impressed. According to Thomas Smith, who wrote the article, Beyond Agamemnon's Principles of Buoyancy, the dynamics of buoyant objects, there are 2 forces acting on boats, gravity and buoyancy. Gravity pushes the boat down while buoyancy keeps the boat afloat. the weight of the watercraft determines buoyancy. If the boat is loaded with objects that are not distributed evenly, it is more prone to sinking. If the boat is loaded evenly, the boat will float. The boats out in the lake seem to be loaded evenly, making them less likely to sink. The Earth's gravitational pull helps hold the boats on the lake, while buoyancy kept them afloat. According to Rasmussen University, Newton's third law applies to action and reaction. This law states that for every action on an object, there is an equal and opposite reaction. These boats had motors that propelled the boats through the water. This kept the boats moving forward. The person driving the boats turned the steering wheel in the direction that he or she wanted to go. On September 2nd, 2024, Rose and I took our dogs for a walk out at Lake Rebecca Park. There we saw multiple people riding bikes. Bike use Newton's third law of motion. According to Tom Epton, who wrote the article The Physics of Cycling, when a person pushes down on a bike pedal, it keeps the bike moving forward. The last two pictures I took were of Rose walking our dogs, Sadie, Jasmine, and Stella. Newton's second law of motion applies to walking. When a person walks, three forces act on him or her: gravity, normal force, friction. According to Cambridge Dictionary, normal force is the amount of pressure that is applied to keep two surfaces together. The normal force applied was when Rose stepped down on the ground with her foot. Friction was applied when the sole of her shoe rubbed on the pavement. Gravity kept her feet on the pavement. In conclusion, the GPS system used quantum mechanics and Einstein's theory of special relativity. Thermodynamics applied to the bricks that were on the house. Bricks hold heat better in the wintertime than other materials. The physics concepts of gravity and light apply to the tree. When trees are planted in a shady area, the tree branches will have more curves due to them growing towards the sun. The roots of the tree pull up water against gravity. Newton's first law of motion applied to the boats because all three would have continued straight if not for the water current, the motor, and the person steering the boat. Second law applies to the boats and people because multiple forces act on them. The third law of motion applies to the boats and people riding bicycles. The laws of physics apply to every object in the world. Thank you for joining me. Have a good day.